Welcome to Fast Effect Double Speed Magic the Gathering. Here we have Caleb on Izzet Delver versus Michael on Ant. One of my favorite combo decks. I actually prefer Ant to Tess. The Epic Storm runs Rite of Flame, which I think is a garbage magic card, and Cabal Ritual is just one of the best cards in Ant. Just so happens to give you 5 mana, making Ad Nauseam very, very castable, and also makes your Past in Flames just incredibly potent, often fighting your way through some really difficult spots, including bypassing cards like Chalice of the Void or even Trinisphere. I've had matches where I've been able to use Cabal Ritual with very little downside, paying 3 to get 5. I mean, that's Seething Song. It's not good, but very, very different than, say, Rite of Flame, paying 1 mana to just lose the mana. Or best case, I guess you can net 1 mana if you've already had 3 rituals. Now we got a Brainstorm plus Fetch. Michael having the best combo in the game available to him on turn 2. Caleb likely to find that as well. Brainstorm, one of those defining cards of the format, really allowing players to cast their lot, figure out what lines they want to be taking, and have some control over the way that the game plays out. Of course, the randomness in Magic, a huge part of the reason why we play it. We've got games like Chess and Go, which are going to always go to the stronger player, but Magic always has that possibility of getting lucky. Even if you're playing against the best in the world, you may have a chance to win. It's a really important feature. Even the worst matchups in Legacy probably end up being something like 80-20. Reminds me of the rat studies testing how rats play. Rats wrestle, actually, for fun. They just like to play. And, I mean, they're not great at it. They don't know any wrestling technique or jiu-jitsu or anything, so the bigger rat pretty much always wins. And if you put a bunch of rats and do like a gauntlet and figure that out, then, you know, the bigger rat's always going to win. The interesting thing happens when you get into an iterative play where they are playing the same game multiple times. The losing rat will actually ask the winning rat to play in the future. That's part of recognizing the fact that the other rat was the winner. And at that point, the bigger rat will actually let the smaller rat win about 30% of the time. True Name Nemesis, and boy, I don't know if Caleb has a 30% chance on this game. This is just totally uncontested so far. Usually Ant would have goldfished by now. Anyways, the point being that people keep coming back to the table as long as there's a chance that they can win. Thoughtseize takes that Force of Negation. Doesn't have to be a 50-50 split, but just having that potential to win is a super important part of Magic, and really creates a healthier community and metagame. Also can, depending on your temperament, at least keep the maybe I'll just use the word ego in check. I mean, you got to know that when you sit down across from somebody, if they're playing a decent deck, you could lose no matter how good you are. You know, if you got 2 legacy decks from, kind of the decks that have put up results before, then yeah, anything could happen. Now, could somebody build a brew that's so bad that they're not realistically ever going to win? Absolutely. That is totally possible. There's, over 10,000 cards you're potentially picking from, maybe over 20,000 at this point. It probably is. Someone can let me know in the comments, I'm sure, how many individual Magic cards there are, unique named cards. It's probably like 23 or 26,000 at this point. I don't even know. But still, it's a lot. So you could certainly build a deck that's not going to be able to win. But Legacy, here we go. At this point, Michael, mana floating. Excuse me. Cabal Ritual now, huge boost in mana, +3. Love doing those iterations. And yeah, from here, that Volcanic, Untapped, Infernal, and this should be grabbing Past in Flames, and that will be a wrap. It'll be Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual, And then Infernal for Tendrils. And that is a closed loop right there. No chance to fumble. No need to get the other kill, which often happens, is that? Oh, maybe I'm wrong on the storm count. He went with Ad Nauseam. I thought he just had it there. Maybe not. All right. Well, he's playing Ad Nauseam, and he has no mana floating. So I guess we'll see where this goes. He's down to 3. Yikes. And now 1. What does he need, like a Lotus Petal or something? Oh my gosh. Does that do it? Does he have a Dark Ritual in there? I was kind of in awe. Looks like he's got a Tropical Island underneath. Oh, and Veil of Summer kills him. It often wins games, just not like that. Not like that. Well, I do these in one take, so a viewer, feel free to count that storm and see if Past in Flames would have just been Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual, Infernal Tutor, and then Tendrils. I mean, I'm pretty positive it was. He was at 18. There was a Thoughtseize played. So we got Thoughtseize, Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual, Infernal Tutor, Past in Flames, Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual, Infernal Tutor, Tendrils. That's 18 right there. I haven't played Storm in a while, but I've got a lot of reps with the deck, and that felt like, without even doing the math, that felt like absolutely a closed case. So yeah, that is a gift for Caleb. He had certain death, and instead the Ad Nauseam found. I actually find when I'm playing Ant, Past in Flames is almost always the way that you end up going. Really, the only reason why I'm not looking for Past in Flames is if I have like a turn 1 Ad Nauseam, something along the lines of like double Dark Ritual into Ad Nauseam. Particularly if it's off of a Lotus Petal and you're still going to get your land drop. I mean, that's totally fine. Now, if you get Force of Will or Force of Negation, you're just totally dead. But I mean, you don't play a deck like this without being willing to take that type of shot, at least in the dark. There's a pretty high chance your opponent's not playing Force of Will. There are a lot of great decks in the format. I mean, maybe 50-50. If you think about it, you got Reanimator, Death and Taxes, Burn, Elves, Maverick builds, lands, Turbo Depths. There's a lot of decks that don't run Force that are totally respectable. Now, as turns go on, Bojuka Bog, probably one of the more dangerous cards that you might find in the main deck, just in the format in general. Crop Rotation 4 Bog, devastating response to Past in Flames. And main deck Graveyard Hate is a potent weapon. I mean, it can be a really good defense against some of the stronger strategies in the format. Part of what makes cards like Past in Flames so strong is the fact that the graveyard is typically not a zone that your opponent can interact with, at least in game 1. And Delver doesn't have access. This particular build, Izzet, Blue-Red Delver, doesn't have access to the best of the best graveyard hate. But, you know, it's totally doable. And you can play cards like Leyline of the Void. Like, that is totally fine. Even if your deck can't cast them, that is a thing you can do. Particularly if you're running Brainstorm, just to get rid of the card if you draw it late. Well, looks like we may have seized up here. Yeah, I'd imagine Grafdigger's Cage, Tormod's Crypt, Relic of Progenitus, Surgical Extraction. There's a lot of different possibilities. Force of Will actually protecting the hand from Caleb, pitching Brazen Borrower. Now, Brazen Borrower, not a super high value card in this matchup. Not a ton you can be doing with it. even answering something like a defense grid. It doesn't really do very much, as you have to have like 5 mana available to do that. I think Tendrils decks in general, Pilots took a step back with the printing of Veil of Summer, just because of how brutal it is against Tendrils. Not only does it stop things like Thoughtseize and Duress while drawing a card, it also makes it so you can't kill them with the Tendrils, which is just incredibly potent. And I think from there, Ad Nauseam players and Tendrils players in general kind of figured out, hey, this is actually where I also want to be. Like, discard is really strong versus these decks, and the ability to use a Veil of Summer to protect the hand is super important. And then also the fact that it makes your stuff uncounterable, as counters are, they feel like the best way to fight this type of deck. I don't know statistically what ends up being the best win rate. I mean, cards like Thalia, Thorn of Amethyst, Sphere of Resistance, Trinisphere, Chalice of the Void, those might actually be statistically better if you ever did some type of real study trying to break it down in terms of win percentages. But I think psychologically people do like the ability to say no. It's also way more skill intensive, knowing exactly where to use your counter magic. So that sub game can be very attractive to players, giving them an opportunity to show how clever they are, or at least feel a real sense of ownership over the results of the game. Now, Caleb's got this early Delver, and Michael's life total is just going to be bleeding out, making Ad Nauseam a worse and worse card turn after turn. And now Blood Moon and a Stifle on the fetch. Now, Michael does have the basic Swamp. No basic Island, though. And this Blood Moon, not a major performer in this matchup typically. We'll see if it's good enough. It's just really slow. A turn 3 Blood Moon, often not good enough, but if it catches you off guard. Now, Michael still has Lotus Petal, Lion's Eye Diamond, all of his rituals, and True Name Nemesis is joined in, so he has, 2 turns left. He can get hit one more time, and then the next one will be lethal. Just 2 cards in Caleb's hand. And a Thoughtseize closing the window a little bit. That gets dazed. Oh no, he's just revealing Daze and Young Pyromancer. Michael likely to take the Daze. So the Daze is taken. It's a little bit of a decision there. So if you play the Daze, it is possible that Michael pays the 1. But it's probably more likely with a perfect line, it is most likely that Michael would not end up walking away from a line that is a win in order to pay the 1. So you would just let the Thoughtseize be countered at that point and just go for your win anyways, assuming that the last card in their hand isn't going to be sufficient. And you might actually give your opponent the extra storm that they'd need for a hand that couldn't actually win. Michael with Infernal Tutor, Crack LED, and yeah, this is a done deal as well. No problem here. Past in Flames, another easy win. This time, the red mana can be given courtesy of Blood Moon. Of course, he still has Lotus Petal, which could provide that in a pinch. But no need, as Underground Sea, just incredible. Taps for black or blue usually, and in this situation, you can get red out of it. And Past in Flames. I mean, if he doesn't grab it here, it's because it's not in the deck. In which case, I don't even know the name of this deck at that point. But we've got it listed as Ant. He's got Storm 7. Just a ton of mana. And, oh, he grabbed a Wishclaw Talisman for the tendrils. Okay. I mean, that is a line. That's totally fine. You can Infernal for tendrils as well. That totally works. And actually, that is a line that you often take when your opponent potentially has Graveyard Hate. If you can generate enough mana, each Infernal Tutor for only 2 mana generates another Storm. And that is an important line to keep in mind. I have seen people jump into Past in Flames unnecessarily and expose themselves to crop rotation from Bojuka Bog or Surgical Extraction. Fairy Macabre doesn't usually hurt you very much, but certainly Surgical. I mean, I've seen it with Tormod's Crypt on board where people have just forgotten. I actually did it once with a Grafdigger's Cage on board. I got it crossed up with an Aether Vial, but that was a comical game. We were playing like 6 feet apart too, which is, no excuse, I guess. I don't think that paints me in a stronger light as a competitor. I mean, the fact that you're 6 feet apart, you should have the proper amount of humility to be playing more carefully, noting that it can be difficult. But yeah, I totally got a Past in Flames when my opponent had a Grafdigger's Cage and did not get there. In that game. Still got there in the match. I mean, it was playing against goblins, so it's a pretty brutal matchup. Even spotting a game, that was still a victory for Storm. But they can get you, especially if you misplay. There is no easier matchup in Magic than a bad combo player. And unfortunately, there's no way to get good. There's no way to be a good combo player without first being a bad combo player. That is the reality of the situation. I don't care how many reps you have in other types of decks. You actually do need to get out there and play quite a bit to reach your potential with a deck like Ant. There are a lot of lines, a lot of possibilities, and it does bring Magic to a human level, I would say, as well. There's definitely a mathematical aspect, particularly when we're talking about cantrips, but overall, it's very, very important skill set to be able to read your opponent, to be able to understand the situation, and also when it's just time to go for it, even if it's possible that they have a counter. Like, without having the certainty, just recognizing that it's more likely that you'll win now and your opponent won't have what they need to stop you than if the game drags on, where, maybe your hand will be a lot better, but, their hand will be better too. Like, the longer the game goes, in this situation, it's inevitable at this point because there's a Delver on board. So if this game goes 6 more turns, Caleb wins, period. Like, there's no really refuting that unless Michael fires off like a mini tendrils or something to try and stay alive, which is rarely ideal. So we got 6 turns. And that's what Delver's all about. Just creating that framework. 5 more turns left. Cracking fetches is going to diminish that. Basic Island, Michael needs to respect the Blood Moon. Polluted Delta can find the swamp. Preordain gets Pyroblasted. The Chandra Spellbook version. Extra land drop. Or land for turn, not an extra. No controversy here. This is just each turn his mana base should be able to grow if things are going well. And the Ad Nauseam line, really not an option now. Michael down to just 7. Could literally be dead next turn with a pair of bolts. Or, for example, if Michael throws out a Thoughtseize and Caleb responds with a bolt, that will also be very, very lethal. Heck, even the fetch land, really. So, if Caleb has a bolt, this one's over right now. either Michael wins or goes to Caleb and Delver gets there. It's a really small chance that Michael could have removal for the Delver, but that's generally incorrect in this type of matchup in my estimation. Just not where you want to be. And is that the Wishclaw Talisman? I can't tell what this is. Yes, Wishclaw Talisman. Oh, Bone Crusher Giant. So close. Fetch land is now offline. And Michael is down to just one, and he does have the Bolt. The Bone Crusher, totally unnecessary. And that is it. Oh, still got all Ds, Caleb says. Force and Negation and Force of Will and a blue card. No chance, says Caleb. And Izzet Delver takes down the match. That is all for this one, but don't worry, there is a lot more. You can check out our older videos, and we're always putting out new videos from ELD's Time Vault games in Bellingham, Massachusetts. If you want to help the channel, of course, you can like, subscribe, share, tap that notification bell so you can know the next time our new videos come out. Thanks for watching.